Corey, thanks so much for joining and for being here. For the people that are listening out here who don't know who you are, can you just describe a little bit about who you are and what it is that you do?
So, my name's Corey Dubé. I grew up in Newfoundland. I played sports growing up, hockey and soccer. I was a lot better at soccer, so I played provincial soccer in Newfoundland. Yeah, I did that for a few years, I'm trying to remember, 3 or 4. I've been personal trainer now for 3 years. On top of it, I do have a nutrition degree. So I did the dietetics option at Acadia, which I finished in 2021. Going over to the personal training side, I like to push. I like to kind of see, well, I would probably ask you, hey, what do you do most of your day? Okay, are you sitting down? Well, right away, we can kind of establish tight hamstrings, glutes are probably weak, stuff like those little things. And then obviously the first assessment, we do a little assessment chart, kind of ask the general questions, work, water. Do you happen to know your macronutrients? Micronutrients, little things like that.
So more like a holistic approach to figuring out
that's the intro. And then I find, because most people sign up for like a month or more, so you'll get to learn most of that and the habits of their everyday life as it goes on. So I find if you just get the general background of, okay, the other question is, are you the main cook? Are you that's a very important question. Is it someone else cooking for you? Because that's going to really impact your fitness goals as well. Yeah. So if you're making the meals or not.
I only wish I had someone cooking for me. I guess I could say, because my wife does cook most of the meals, which is really good. Nice. So
that's
So I guess
to have.
I have a cooker maybe.
So, and a lot of people mix up nutrition with like being a chef as well. And it's like, no, I don't have a culinary degree or I guess diploma. Sure, I picked up skills. I used I learned from the internet like most people, but HelloFresh is another prime example. These pre-made things that you can kind of cook on your own. Sure, I picked up skills from it, but even at my age, I'm learning the importance of cooking and understanding. And I think the benefit I got from my degree is I can look at like a plate of food and kind of guesstimate the calories, right? I can be like, okay, this is the calorie range we're looking at. And I think that's the key thing that a lot of people can't visualize. And I think that's the struggle is portion control, especially in Western culture.
Yeah, I think we're definitely going to dive into nutrition.
We'll go down into that. But anyways, more about me. And I find when I do an assessment with someone, I talk about the food, I talk about the relationship with that, but they're there for the workout and the nutrition is kind of a side thing. So that's a side service I would apply after the fact. And I try and keep it minimal because you don't want... Well, one, you don't want to overwhelm, but two, there's a lot of information that you can charge as a service. And as a business owner, I got to understand that there's value in how much I can give out. And that's what I'm still learning at my age, because you want to keep people in, but I also want people to fly, right? And my philosophy, at least with the personal training, is I want you to understand how to work out. And then maybe you hit that goal. Awesome. You can move on from me. And then maybe you're like, oh, I hit that plateau again. Hey, Corey really helped me out. So things like that, like those little things that you can. And now as I'm learning more about fitness as well, it's not about how much you can press and how much ego lifting you can do, because that's kind of the fitness world as well. And I'm noticing it's now expanding into mobility, functional training, stuff like that. So, okay, we play hockey. Well, how can we improve your stride, right? Maybe it's your hips. Oh, that's the reason why we're not skating as fast. Your hips are tight. Yeah. Like that's the things I want to look at.
That's exactly. That's why I'm not scoring those goals.
Or maybe you can't push as fast because your quads are weak. Okay, well, we have to strengthen quads, and that's when you would load up the heavy lifting.
Right.
So it's kind of, I'm learning now to find the balance between heavy lifting and like actually putting people and pushing them, and then also showing, okay, you're tight in these areas, or you're not as strong in the lats, or just parts around the body that we use every day.
Yeah. So that's really interesting, because I think what you're saying here is that depending on the person and what they're looking for, you can kind of tailor what programs you're going to put together for them.
Which I know we're going to get into as well as
well, even just real quick right now, I'll ask you, like, what types of people are you helping in your business?
So I most of my work, because I've done some side work with some other clientele, but most of my work is through a gym, 360 Fit. The owner, Devin Sherrington, has given me a great opportunity. So it's an interesting business model where the fact I came from Newfoundland, I didn't have any connections. So he just hired me on. And the way he works was he would give us clients and then kind of see which clients, they'd be like, okay, this client kind of fits with this trainer. Then this trainer would get them.
Right.
And the benefit of this, it's a local gym. And we have a really nice community at this gym. I feel like everyone pushes each other. We try and post in a Facebook group that we have, but it's all about pushing each other and kind of having that mentality and motivation that maybe the trainers don't have to do because other people are pushing you, especially in boot camps and even just one-on-one training. Like someone will come over and talk to you, right? It's not like we're going to put our headphones in and you have like kids in the corner there doing their own thing. And you may have, elderly adults over there doing their own thing. And then, you just get random advice from a stranger. Like it feels like a niche community in that way that Devin's done a really good job of building up. But going back to your question there, what do we mostly deal with? I would say our general demographic is probably around early 30s all the way up to like, I don't know, 60, 70, right?
Okay.
We have some elderly population, and it's really great to see because sure, they're not going to be lifting, say, the same as me or a 30 or 40-year-old, but they're moving. Like that's the biggest thing is movement. And I'm going to go to a little saying that I got from my grandmother who just got a hip replacement, and her surgeon said, motion is lotion. And I was like, that's a great saying.
Oh, geez,
motion is lotion. And the surgeon for her, because she's in her 80s there, just said, move, just walk around the house, shuffle, whatever it is. She used to do walks all the time, and then obviously the hip and all that. But that's the thing I like about this gym is like we don't discourage that. We actually encourage that. Yeah. We want people to come in and be welcomed. And this front staff and the trainer, I may be training someone, but if I see someone I know, I'm going to say hi. I'll just say, hey, yeah. And then I keep training my client, right? That's how our gym works. It's nice. It's different than say these other big commercial gyms. I'm sure other local gyms are like that. I hope they're like that. I hope they have that community.
Yeah. Well, that makes a lot of sense because having a good community is something that's going to be beneficial for everyone, especially the person who's joining. Like I think of me or someone that's overweight or wants to lose weight or whatever, which by the way, this is why I'm really excited to have you here is because I'm trying to figure out how to lose weight and how to do it properly this time so that I could lose the weight and keep it off. And then it's just
go to like a maintenance phase, right?
Yeah,
exactly, totally.
Exactly. Having some people that are going to be there to support you and that you feel as if you're motivated and you want to keep going and everyone's kind of cheering you on. It's just, I don't know. It's just that environment is just so helpful.
Yeah. It's healthy. It's a healthy environment. Yeah. And you're totally right. Like confidence is huge. And we have a lot of people that said, well, actually a lot of people I train that never been to a gym. So,
oh really?
Yeah, they've never worked out in their life.
That's fantastic though for people that have never been to a gym and then for you to go to them and be like.
And the biggest thing, I'm sure COVID definitely helped the push because like gyms took a really heavy hit. I wasn't actually in the industry when COVID hit. I was graduating, of course, but I was unemployed for a year. So I'm a gym guy. I like to go to a gym. Yeah. We briefly talked about this, but I don't like doing home workouts. It's not my favorite. I would do them, but I'd rather go somewhere that's a space that's not mine, empty my head that way, and then come back home.
Is it more because you like to be around other people, or is it just...
Yes and no, because usually I put my headphones in and do my own thing, and I'll take them off and talk to people, but I do like to do, but hey, I've worked out with clients, right? I'd be like, hey, do you want to do a workout? There's a guy, sometimes I'll just message, be like, hey, do you mind if I join you? Another client as well, and we'll do a workout together. And that's kind of also pushes them because they see me working out with them. And I think that's a great idea. And sometimes I'll usually throw it like on a tail end of a break or the end of my day, because you don't really want to be sweaty training like 2 or 3 other clients.
Right. Yeah.
And that's not fun being sore either, trying to train other clients either. And that's the other like debacle or kind of the thing you got to understand when you're a trainer as well, is understanding when to do it and when not to do it.
Right.
And that's just coming down to professionalism. And I'm still learning that myself. But it's a learning process. Yeah, totally,
for sure. And learning how to interact with the clients and knowing what's to do. Yeah, I wanted to ask you here, when you're dealing with a typical client, what does it generally look like when they're coming to you and saying that I want to lose weight or whatever? Just give me a quick overview of like kind of typically how it goes.
So we do our initial assessment, and then after that, in this assessment, there's usually I do like this thing in our assessment sheet that it has like goals, and there is some other like, how are you going to achieve all that? But I just find the goals and just say, okay, you're signing up for 6 months or a year or whatever. What is your goal? What do you want? And some people say, okay, it's like they have a weight goal they want. Okay. I loved like Acadia with their education process of saying, don't focus on numbers. And it's kind of funny going into this field, which is all about numbers. We do scales, we do measurements, so we measure around the whole body.
So sorry, your education was like, don't worry about numbers, and then you get into the industry. It's like, actually, no, totally. Everything's about numbers.
Yeah,
wow.
Katie very much pushed like BMI is a bullshit thing. I'm not even gonna go into that, but like, yeah, my boss, who's he's a muscular man. And he's obese.
Yeah. Oh, from the BMI scale.
From the BMI scale.
For sure.
And if you see him, you're like, this guy is not obese.
Yeah.
So it's a whole system that makes no sense to me. And I'm shocked that we still use it.
Is it a good indicator, at least for the average person, to at least give you because obviously if you're a super athlete, you're working
discouraging.
out.
I feel like it's just more discouraging because you say, oh, like I'm probably in the overweight category.
Yeah.
And
but you're not though.
I know. That's what I mean. And that's where the mental battle of the fitness industry comes in.
I know. I look at it and I'm like, I go on that scale and I'm like, I'm not super muscular, whatever, but I'm like, I'm on that. I'm just on the line of obese. I'm like, oh shit, that's not good. And I know that obviously I'm not super whatever, but because I'm athletic but like my gut is just this big balloon,
that's the other thing. It depends on where you hold the weight.
Yeah.
So that's why I do like our system to a degree that we measure around the body. So we see a lot of clients that might go up in weight or stay the same weight, but you'll see inches go down. So what we measure is we'll go around the neck, we'll do the shoulders, we'll do the chest, we'll do each bicep, we'll do the waist kind of right. I usually go where the belly button is, the hips kind of around where the glutes are, and then we do the quad and the calf.
So they get that full body assessment at the beginning.
And if you see our posts all the time, like people are like, oh, this got to be bullshit. And yeah, like it's like 30 inches, but it's not just 30 around the waist. And I think people get that in their head. It's like, oh, they lost 30 inches and it's like, oh, it must be their waist and hip. No, it's around the body.
Yeah. Oh, you mean like you add up all the
and that's what we do. Yeah, and that's how we, obviously it's a promoting thing. It's kind of an eye catcher. It's like, whoa, this person lost this in 6 months or whatever.
Yeah.
And I've had clients who's lost 50 pounds, right? And it's crazy to see like after a year, they've lost 50 pounds and you're like, wow. And then we look back on the numbers and you're like, wow, your waist went down like 8 inches. Like you started at a high number, I don't know, like 50 or whatever. You're down to like a 40. And that's why I do like the numbers in that sense, because people get discouraged quick. And that's the problem with doing like our month program sometimes is people are like, oh, I hit a plateau. Or if you haven't done any exercise, like I said, a lot of our clientele haven't worked out. You'll see a quick drop like that. And then that's kind of a catcher as well for our industry.
It's because I noticed too. Yeah, you at the beginning
hit a plateau.
You can lose. Yeah, then you plateau. Then you have to figure things out, or your body's. I don't even know what's happening there. I guess it depends on.
But that's what I mean. But maybe you'll see the shoulders, and you find like quads. Quads will go down and they might increase again. But that's muscle filling in. Muscle weighs more than fat. I believe it's like 2 pounds is the estimate. So that's the thing too. People be like, oh, I just gained a pound or two, but my waist went down. Well, it's because you're probably gaining muscle that you never had before. And that was something that you never had in your system. Yeah. Maybe you increased the protein and your workouts, or maybe you were very, inactive and now you are, and that's going to create a dramatic change as well. Yeah. So that's kind of what our whole life is going to be.
Yeah, for sure. So the types of people that come in, are they generally like, is there a specific, I guess that's a whole range of people, but is it more like people that are, the dad bod guy comes in, or?
We have those. We're in Burnside area, so it is a lot of kind of, I'm trying to think, trade workers or desk works of people that are in the area. Some people drive in from Cole Harbour or Bedford or whatever, Sackville as well. I'm sure Halifax, right? Just the HRM area. But no, it's mostly people that kind of get off work or can take a lunch break or could be flexible in their schedule. To kind of answer your question, like, sure, yeah, we get people that do recreational sports, train a few people that do basketball and soccer and stuff. So when I have those clients, I kind of look at what their job is, but not only that, how can I benefit their recreational play?
Right.
So, okay, they're sitting down a lot, like we kind of talked about. So hip mobility is something they're lacking. So how can we open up the pecs and shoulders and the hips and stuff? Because a lot of times typing like this, we're tight here, or a lot of people engage their traps way too much.
I find my neck gets sore as well too. You kind of hunched over sometimes.
And I'm noticing even at my age, I'm developing a little, and it's clearly texting and stuff. And I'm like, wow. So something I have to be wary of, and I should do it now, is kind of adjust here. And it's funny, like when I talk to some friends back in Newfoundland and stuff, and we're doing something online or whatever, and we make a thing called a stretch check. You just
really? Okay.
you take 10 minutes or whatever, 5 minutes, and you just stretch.
Yeah.
You
Why
just
not?
get out of your chair and stretch, right? And it's
Motion
just like
is lotion.
motion is lotion. So like, yeah. And it could be just like something simple as like just pulling on your arms here and just stretching out the pecs and shoulders that way. Hell, it could even be like this tricep stretch, simple things like that. And you just hold for a good 20 seconds, 30 seconds. Doesn't have to be long.
Yeah.
And that's what people skip. And I'm guilty of it at hockey. I just leave after hockey.
Yeah.
But my benefit with my job is I'll stretch with my clients at least, I don't know, 5 minutes after. So I at least get the stretching in, but I'm sure there's a lot of people after our hockey that aren't.
For sure. I think a lot of people are. I know for sure.
I don't know if you do.
I'm guilty because I usually try to stretch at least at night or even in the morning too. So,
Perfect.
but I think after working out, it's probably the best time to stretch.
So going into the warm up, you want a dynamic before it. So that's like, movements like here, swinging the legs, quick movements that are kind of go, high knees, butt kicks, all those common ones.
Get the blood flowing a little bit.
And then at the end is kind of when you do these static holds.
Yeah.
Right. So after you've worked out, you're going to hold those stretches, like those muscles in position, because they should be warmed up and they're able to actually push into that.
Right.
And then the goal is with stretching, the more you do it, the better it gets.
Yeah.
I train so many people that can't touch the toes. Right. And I'm able to cross over and actually touch the toe. And it's kind of mind boggling to see sometimes. I've like a very common stretch is when you're lying on the floor and you take one leg and cross it over. Do you know what I'm talking about? So you're lying flat here and you take your leg and cross it over.
Like a windshield wiper?
Pretty much. Okay, and then you would kind of pull on that leg and stretch the hamstring. And I find people are so tight, they can't even do like a 90 degrees with their legs.
Yeah. Okay.
So there's little, and it's like mind boggling to me that our population is so tight, but it makes sense. If we're sitting in a desk right now like this, our hamstrings are going to be tight. Our glutes are not going to be activated. And that's what you'll find is like a lot of the lower body does not activate enough.
Yeah. Have you seen those images? It's kind of like the evolution of man. It goes from like the monkey or the ape or whatever to the man. And then it goes down and like backs to de-evolves because then the guy's sitting on the computer, right? So we're all like hunched up. We don't move.
So no, I think that's a number one problem. At least probably just in the world, but at least in Western culture.
Yeah, we'll talk about that too, because that's. I mean, I think it's a big problem that we're having, especially in the West. Is just we're just really unhealthy.
And we can go into the food portion of that too.
But. Yeah. So talking about clients now. So one thing I always wonder about clients is like how do you know how hard to train a client, right? I guess because it's pretty individualized and personalized. Yeah. So how do you know that somebody that you can yell at and you can be like, you better push through this last 100 pounds or what, or there's bench press, you know what I mean, right?
I totally know what you mean. I feel like you kind of learn it as you go, and you definitely have to know how to read people. I've trained people that just don't want to talk much and are very reserved, and eventually you can kind of break that and they'll kind of come out because they're shy or whatever. But I've also had people that will just straight up tell you, oh, this is what I want, which is the best clients, because then you don't have to poke and prod and like kind of test the waters, And there's been clients who I've trained for 3 years, so I know what they're like, right? Who started with me and are still with me now. So to kind of answer your question of, how to tell, you just start, like I find I just start with kind of the basic machines and stuff. I find a slow progression of once an assessment, like a beginning assessment of the basic movements. Okay, let's see your squat. Okay, and I start usually with a supported squat with TRX ropes, if you know what TRX, the TRX system. So I just start with those squats and see, okay, let's see if the knees. So with squatting, there's a lot of science and stuff about squatting, but personally, I like a nice little flare in the legs or in the knees. Sorry, feet just planted, and
your feet are out a little bit. Maybe
I personally, but once again, some people can do a straight leg, like the traditional squat, and it'll be more quad. But as soon as you start to kind of rotate the feet a little and then flare the legs ever so slightly, well, now you're engaging glutes. You're now engaging adductors, and those are the little muscles we tend not to activate. And another coach of mine who's at the gym, Phil. He's an older individual, but I've learned a lot from the guy. He's big in the hip mobility. So I wasn't a fan of back squat. I hated back squat.
What do you mean?
Like back just squat? Barbell back squat.
Okay, so it's resting on your.
Yeah, biggest thing for me is
one. Like it hurts.
Well, it can, but that's the thing. People put it on their traps or their neck, but realistically, it should be on the lats. So you should be actually squeezing your back together and then using your lats as the actual pad. So the goal,
even if you don't have the mobility, that might even be hard to just.
That's it, and that was one thing I struggled with. Maybe that's why I hated it. So, and I probably put it too high up. Yeah. So I always avoid the exercise. And he kind of walked me through it. And even me as a trainer who had the education, I did the personal training certificate.
Yeah.
He still taught me so much more just from his experience. And I think that's where I excel as well, is I actually listen and want to learn from others.
Yeah.
And I think that's the best way, as everyone should, is that's how you grow.
Yeah. And that helps you
learn from others.
Yeah. And
so going back to your question about how to push people, it's kind of understanding, okay, let's look at the assessment, see where they're struggling at. So like I said, maybe they're tight here. Okay, so how can we open up this thing? So let's start with mobility exercise that can open it, and let's see like a shoulder press. Okay, maybe the shoulders are coming. Oh, the hands leaning forward. It's like, you've really got to be tactical. Yeah. And that's what people are paying for. They want that poke and prod to a certain degree. And then there's another trainer we used to have who's not there anymore. And he was really big about tight lats and proud chest is what he said. And he'd always poke lats and stuff. He would always be driving here. So when he left, some of his clients went over me, and that's a running joke, is like, do you want me to like start poking your lats and stuff? And then they just start laughing. They're like, no, we don't need that like PTSD in my life. But that's the thing. It's just like, I don't have to worry about them engaging their lats because they have it. So understanding where people are struggling with, like, these are the fine things as a personal trainer that you should be looking for. And that's what defines a good and a bad personal trainer. So learning how to push that, okay, we start with that, and we start with lighter weight. And I write down each exercise I do. I write down their weight that they started with. And then from that, we kind of look, okay, you did, like, we can reflect, 6 months, or not 6, let's say 2 months ago, you're like, oh, you chest pressed 10 pounds. Now you're doing 20. Like, that's a huge increase.
Win. Yep.
And sometimes, like, people have base strength, they just don't have the technique. So sometimes I'll usually start with a program of a month or 3 weeks of like 12 reps, go down to 10, 8, like that range for another, 3 months. And then after that, go to a heavier lift of like, say, 6 reps.
Yeah.
And I might pair it with something I call extensory exercise, but like, say I do a chest press, so that's your push, and I'll pair with a bicep, like a, easy bar curl or something. And that might be 10 reps. Yeah. So you do like your heavy push, and I like supersets. That's kind of my favorite, is supersets, 2 exercises back to back. But you do your heavy push, and then you can do the biceps just to kind of work an antagonist muscle there. Like little things like that. So then you have your heavy lift, and then we have base numbers for, say, six reps. And then I like to go back to the endurance to a certain point, go back to 12. So maybe, okay, let's look back at the three months or however long, 2 months. And you're like, okay, I was pushing this for 12 reps. Let's see what you push for 12 reps now. And then that way, like I said, you can see the 10 pounds. Oh, you're pushing. Yeah. So 10 pounds for 12. Now you're doing 20 for 12.
Yeah. It goes back to what you're saying about numbers and how they're really important, because that's how you can track progress.
Yeah. And it's funny. Like, I hated stats. I was actually terrible at stats. And here I am using numbers all the time. Yeah. Luckily, I'm not using those equations.
At least it's not too bad, because you're just like, what were you there and what were you now? Is it up? Is it down?
Stats gives me some anxiety. I don't even want to think about it. But I'm not a stats guy. I wish I was. I wish I could do the numbers and go high equations, but you know what? You don't need to.
If you don't need to, then why bother?
But that's how I understand.
Stick to what you do best.
Exactly.
Right?
And that's how I can understand how to push someone. And like I said, you kind of get that interaction. Like, I feel like if I trained you and I kind of got to talk to you more, I could be like, okay, usually I'll go in, and that's same with the boot camps as well. You need to know how to be loud. And then right after it, you can come next to someone, say you're doing, any exercise. Like we were talking about chest press. I can come over, give you small cues, and be like conversation like this. Yeah. But then after, it would be like a loud voice projecting, oh, we have this much time left or whatever. You take your rest, and then you go back to the person and be like, so it's the same idea with the personal training. It's like, some people like that. I have another client who I was counting reps for and all that, and he literally told me, I don't like that shit. Don't do that.
Stop doing it. Yeah. It's like, okay.
Yeah. And then the other was like, I don't want those basic exercises too. It's like, okay, like you're the person paying for the service. Yeah. I'll do what you want. Yeah. And that's the thing you got to realize as well.
Yeah. But you got to find, I guess, a point too of when to push, when not to push. So like, this is what I want. But it's like, but if you told me your goal is to be able to do this, then it's like, well, you need to be able to do these exercises. And they're like, they push back, and
you definitely deal with some pushback, but I find with the clientele we have, most of them are, and that's the nice thing I like, is they're eager to do the work. They want to do. They're paying decent money.
That's why they came in. They want to reach a goal, and
some of them know how to work out, but they need the like, I have an appointment. I need to do this. Yeah, and I'm like,
it's like that accountability.
Thank you. That's the word I was looking for. So accountability is everything. So that's why I think gyms do well is there's accountability and also community. So that double whammy of we have accountability and a really nice community of people that want to push and want to get better. And not only that, encouraging others to be there.
Yeah.
Right.
So speaking of accountability, how much accountability do you take if you have a client that ends up not being successful, whether they leave or whatever? Like, how does that affect you?
I think you just got to take like water on a duck's back. You just got to.
I never heard that. Water on a duck's back.
Water on a duck's back just flows right off.
Oh, okay.
I never heard that. Maybe it was a Newfoundland thing. I don't know. Anyways, just water off a duck's back. It just kind of flows right off.
Yeah. Okay.
So you just gotta kind of learn from your mistakes, right? How did I not, prepare this person? And sometimes that's where maybe I didn't actually push nutrition enough. And I feel like I'm still learning how to push enough, but not give too much away. And that's an area I'm struggling to kind of battle right now.
When you say you don't want to give too much away, what do you mean by that?
Because like there's so much resources out there, and I guess I could be contradicting someone else who has, social media out there of macronutrients and how much you should be consuming and stuff. That's kind of what I mean. That sure, I'll give someone, if someone asks me, I usually use Harris Benedict or World Health Organization to get your basal metabolic rate. So those are kind of essentially how much calories you're burning. So on average, I think, so the nutrition food guide, just any food guide, they go off a base of 2,000 calories. So when you're seeing those numbers, it's off a diet of 2,000 calories. But most people are not burning 2,000 calories, and it kind of depends on gender, and that's a whole other kind of area as well. But usually I'll say that some will burn more and some will burn less. It
depends on your mass too at the start. It depends on lots of factors.
Well, that's it too. Someone who's a little, I guess, bigger will burn more calories, right? Your body has to do more just to function. Like that's how I'll phrase it. The heart has to pump harder and the limbs have to move more, and you're pushing more weight. And that's kind of comes down to like knee problems as well, right? The body kind of, there's more force on the knees and stuff like that. But
is there any kind of tool or whatever to measure what someone's base metabolic rate is?
Yeah, geez, the equation's online. Hell, you can just type it in. You can be like, what is my basal? And it'll give you a solid base. But
is it going to take into count like, well, what's my weight? How much? Totally. What's my body fat percentage? What's my exercise and fitness level?
In the equation, you take the gender, then you take the height.
Yeah.
I believe it's centimeters. So one uses centimeters.
Yeah. Well, you can.
And the other uses meters. Well, no, I can't remember which one uses what. So what I did is I set up an Excel sheet and have it. So there's different age demographics and then, gender brackets.
Yeah.
So I set up, each equation, and then all I have to do now, since I already have the thing in Excel, is I just type in those kind of numbers I have to interchange.
Right.
And then it just spits me out a number.
Yeah. Yeah.
It just speeds up the process,
for sure,
right?
For sure.
So essentially you need the gender, you need the height, you need their age, and then you need their weight.
Their weight. Yeah.
And the weight's usually in kgs.
Yeah. And there's no fitness activity level on that?
And then you can add the PAA, I believe. So physical activity, physical activity level.
Oh, right.
So depending, so someone like me, I believe is would be high activity, like a 1.8.
Yeah.
So but someone who's sedentary would be like a 1.2 or a 1. So you take that and then times it by 1.1, 1.2, whatever that number is, kind of subjective on your activity level.
Yeah.
And that will give you your base kind of calories of what you burn.
It's pretty high though, right? What a body burns in a day?
Yeah, usually. Yeah. Like I haven't done mine in a while because I just I do mindful eating more so. I have the educational background that I don't really count my calories to a certain degree, but I understand when to eat and kind of look at portion control that way. So I'm very lucky in that sense that I don't have to worry about that. But, it's something I think about, of course. But I'm probably burning, estimate, I don't know, 2,300, 2,400.
I thought it'd be
maybe
a lot,
something.
a lot
Do you
more.
It could be more. I don't know. I'm kind of ashamed to admit that.
No, but it's like, I always hear like, oh, even just breathing is a lot.
Like you burn a lot
to
of
digest
calories.
your stuff. Like
so someone who's say heavier, they could be burning 3,000.
Yeah, maybe I guess that makes sense because if you're supposed to eat 2,000 and then you burn 2,000, then you're equal.
And someone who say could be 300, like over 300, they're probably pushing like high 2,000s to 3,000 calories. So as soon as you drop them down, you actually have to count. I don't know. Let's just start with 2,100, like 2,100 calories, and see if you can stay in that.
Yeah.
And the problem with our culture and our kind of Western eating method is overeating is so easy to do.
Yeah, especially a lot of these foods are so dense, right? Like that
Density,
one cookie.
Food prices are so high that people buy bulk. I'm guilty of it too. And when you buy bulk, I'm just going to take one more. Oh, I'm just going to take one more. Like you don't portion. So that's why sometimes like a decent snack, I'll say that's a little kind of sugary is those Brooksides. It's a dark chocolate. It's covered in kind of, it has like a dried berry in it. And sure, if you buy the bag, you're just going to kind of grab handfuls of it. But Costco does like the individual packets. So you can kind of portion control that way. Oh, I'm just going to take a packet or maybe 2 for dessert. Ideally 1, and then you have your limitation.
Right, yeah.
And I think that's the biggest struggle with eating is portion control.
I think a lot of manufacturers, you're just getting, maybe we could have put our tinfoil hats on, but in terms of how they package their products, they always make it in a way that makes you eat more in terms of how they package. Like for me, one of my, I love chocolate almonds, which is terrible because those are really dense. But then you buy it and it's like a huge big bag and it's just kind of open. You're like, okay, well, I guess
where
I'll
are you
just
buying it
grab
from? Are you doing the Walmart or the Costco one?
Sometimes I'll go to the bulk bar and sometimes I'll just go.
Yeah.
If I go to the grocery store and it's like, I need it. It's only in like these big, huge bags.
Totally.
Like these 1 kilogram. I don't need 1 kilogram of chocolate almonds.
This time of year for the holidays for this holiday that's coming up, there's mini eggs. They're on sale.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, I could spend, I don't know, $20 on this big bag and probably save an extra $3 than the little ones.
It's like, well, this is cheaper per gram or whatever.
Because all grocery stores, and my partner hates this. She hates grocery shopping with me because I'm very much a label looker.
Yeah.
I look at the prices and I'll look at 2 products and be like, okay, how much is this per gram? Per 100 gram. And I feel like most of probably my generation doesn't do that. I am noticing now a lot of my age is actually going to the gym, and that's why these big commercial gyms are struggling is because they're like, wow, these people actually want to come to our gym and work out because they thrive off people not showing up.
Right.
That's like Planet Fitness thrive off people not going to the gym. Just get that membership.
It's kind of maybe not very expensive.
Yeah, fit for less the same way. Yeah. But anyone who's been to a commercial gym knows there's peak hours that are just hell.
Yeah.
The unenjoyable chaos, and you're like fighting. It's like
fighting for
World War II.
Yeah,
you're like fighting for machines, and you're like, geez, I just want to get a chest press in. I can't even do that. I just want to do a barbell squat, but like you have 3 squat racks that are taken up by people doing deadlifts or whatever because they're waiting for machines. So I find my generation, I hope, is now understanding, but a lot of people don't know the macro breakdown either. So you got to look at your price, and then you got to look at the ingredients, and then your macros. And that's the other thing I usually ask in an assessment. If I'm doing at least more food stuff is like, okay, when you buy food, what do you look at? Are you looking at price? Okay, well, now I understand that you're more of a budgeter. So what products can I give you that are cheaper for what you enjoy? Okay, you look at, say, sugar content. Okay, let's find options that are sugar-free. Sure, there might be artificial sweeteners. That's a whole other topic that we can go down, but maybe that's a solution for you that works for you. Maybe you're looking at fat content, carbs, whatever. Maybe you're doing one of the diets that are questionable at times, but hey, I can support you if you're going to go through it.
So that's a really good segue to talk about nutrition and how things are going.
We definitely can.
So how much guidance do you give your clients on nutrition? Because we're talking a lot about it, and there's so much information out there on nutrition and so many different diets or whatever. But like for you, anyways, what do you give your clients?
It's funny you say that. So I'm a personal trainer. So every trainer has their own educational level of nutrition. So I guess a benefit of having me is there's more nutrition base, but I'm paid to give you a workout. And then if you really kind of like while we're training, you want to ask, sure, I'll give you some nutrition stuff. I'm all for that. But other than that, our gym does supply just a general recipe thing, calorie stuff. But I do have a lot of clients that are like, what calories should I be eating? And if that's the occasion, I'll plug it through Who, and that's the benefit you have with me is I'll give you your calorie stuff, and then I'll say, okay, if you want to say lose, and ideally we want 1 pound or 2 pounds a week, that's healthy weight loss. That is healthy weight loss. If we're seeing 10 pounds, okay, something dramatic has happened, or you're doing one of the fad diets that aren't really sustainable.
Or like a David Goggins or whatever.
Well, exactly. The biggest one that's blowing, like keto's huge, and then the carnivore diet's now kind of growing as well.
Yeah.
But one I actually do like is the Mediterranean diet, but we're not in the Mediterranean, so it's hard to do that diet.
Yeah, no kidding.
So and I do like their philosophy. But anyways, so the nutrition advice is kind of, if people really like ask about it, sure, I'm more than happy to talk about nutrition. But other than that, I try and keep also because as a business owner, you're technically always on the clock. You're always answering. So even if I'm on vacation, I still had to get a SIM card, even if I went away and, respond to texts and stuff. And like I get home usually 7, 8 o'clock at night, and I'm still maybe have to text clients and stuff. And, it's hard to disconnect sometimes. You're trying to talk to your partner and I message something like, can you listen to me? I'm like, yeah, well, business, my bad. My bad. And it's that separation you need to learn.
Yeah. I love the whole business side that you're talking about here too, because I know our audience is really interested in business, and you were talking about how do you even maintain those client relationships and what are the boundaries. And for you, I mean, that's kind of it's not going to say the hustle, but it's kind of like what you need to do in order to be successful. And then you want to get your name out there. You just kind of started a few years ago.
Yeah.
And you want to let your clients know that you're going to be there for them in the time that they need them, right?
That's what I've learned, because so before owning a business and all that, and I'm lucky in the fact that both my parents actually do have business degrees. My mom pushed for HR. My dad, oh God, I think just a business administration, but he's been, running a business for years here, but I won't go into detail there, but they've kind of helped me in that industry. But before that, I did labor jobs. I did odd jobs. Geez, I put up wedding tents. I did that for a summer, right? I've done some. Well, that's what I mean. I've done summer camps, and then even my other than this job I have now, I was a resident assistant. That was technically a job as well.
Yeah.
So now I just transitioned, and then I was unemployed, and then I was like, well, what am I going to do? And the way Devin kind of sets up is we're contract workers. So we set up our company, and then we just invoice them for the hours we work.
Right.
So we kind of start off with salary and then now moved into hourly. And it kind of depends on if you get enough clients that you can make that jump.
Yeah.
And there's a lot more kind of a bigger ceiling when you get to hourly. And not only that, the way I like our business kind of relationship is, as long as everyone's kind of doing getting good results and they're happy, then everyone's happy. And that's what I like about our relationship with me and Devin is that, I like to push people, and he understands that, and he knows who will work for me. And not only that, I've gained a lot of clients just through word of mouth. That's actually probably where I got most of it.
And that's the thing. So you have to, because you're responsible. Like if you're not training well, you're not going to get those clients. You're not going to make the money. So
that's the other kind of shitty thing as well. If I take a vacation, I don't get paid.
Yeah.
I don't get vacation days, just like you don't either as a business owner. So that's kind of a weird understanding of, okay, I own a company to a certain degree, and then understanding the taxes of that. That was a whole new world to me too. It's like, oh, I can actually lease a car and it's actually cheaper for me.
Yeah.
Interesting. And then I can, well, exactly. And then I can, bring it back in and get a new one in another year. I haven't done that yet, but I'm like, oh, that's something I can look into. Oh, the internet. Oh, I didn't know the internet for my place could actually be a write-off for business, to a certain degree. Yeah.
Write-off basically anything. The way that I do things is, if I need to buy something, I'm thinking, how can I make this work in the sense of that it's what my business needs? Obviously you can't buy a big screen TV or whatever.
Well, actually,
this one, okay, this one I can.
Okay.
Maybe you can buy big screen TVs.
Yeah, I was about to say you have one right here. I can,
but maybe as a fitness trainer, But if I want,
if I start showing stuff and filming myself through that TV, I could.
You 100%.
But that's a gray zone. I don't do that.
I wanted to talk to you about this in a little bit too, about where you can go as a business and how you can make it so that your business can still thrive and be successful, even if you're not doing personal training, right? So you can think of for you, if you wanted to go off in selling courses, or if you wanted to put together programs that people can have offline, that's how you can grow your own brand to make money outside of just, I always have to be in the gym training client, because it's obviously there's a cap. There's only so many hours that you have in the day that you can be sitting down with a client. So if you're thinking of expanding the business, you can take it online, and there's so much things you can do in the fitness space, because it's a huge industry. I don't know how many billions of dollars or maybe even trillions the whole fitness industry is. It's a lot.
Well, yeah, just fitness in general, like I said, in the past years have expanded, and it's an area I haven't dabbled in because I really do like the hands-on. I like to be in person, and I haven't messed around with the online much because I enjoy the interaction, and I feel like I connect with people, and that's what I enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
So sure, it's something I've looked into. I've done nutrition on the side, but I find I don't get the results. I feel like people are not connected as much. For instance, some did get results, but I've definitely helped some university athletes and stuff who say want to gain weight because they're a little scrawnier and want to bulk up.
Yeah.
So it was a completely different switch from my gym, which is usually a lot of, weight loss, and then being like, oh, I actually have to make a program for weight gain.
Yeah.
I'm like, how do we do that?
Right.
So it's pushing different
weight
foods
gain too. Like I could probably train someone to gain fat, like just eat pizza all day,
Well,
or
that's
hot dog.
it, right? And I know some actors have actually done that for roles. They're like, I've eaten a tub of ice cream and just gained a pot belly. But like we want to gain muscle. So it's
mass,
like, oh God, how can we? So like usually you push the heavier carb foods like pasta or whole grains. That's usually what I would push, and then just up your meat a little more. Say your protein, it's a vegan or vegetable or vegetarian proteins, and just push a little more portions.
Yeah.
But then I find then people are like, well, I'm bloated more. Well, it's like, okay, if that's the problem, okay, now we have to look at your snacks. We got to push. Say you're doing 100 calorie snacks, which could be an apple. Well, you need like 200 calorie snacks, like trail mix.
Yeah.
That's 300 there if you do like a handful of nuts.
Right.
So it's like, okay, that was a weird switch for sure. And that's something I do want to do more, and I have done on the side, but it's not something I've pushed heavily.
Yeah. Do you?
And I want to learn more about that.
Yeah. Do you find, like, what percentage? You usually hear something along the lines of about 80% of losing weight or fat loss or whatever has to do with nutrition, and you're saying you're focused on, lifting and doing the personal training side of it. But, if you're having clients and you want them to have the most success, isn't there a way to figure out, or do you want to try to figure out a way how you can incorporate nutrition somehow because it's so important?
No, that's a great question. I think that's maybe the niche I need to target more is how to figure out, okay, this eating plan that can work for you. And maybe that's just my mindset. I hate it. I'm not a structured person, and you can ask my partner. I hate lists. I just like, I'm free flowing, and that's a blessing and a curse in its sense that I don't get stressed too often. Sure, I have my stressful moments, but I very much go with the flow. So when someone says eat this every day, I feel like very robotic, and I'm not into that. But I have well, that's what I mean. So another question I ask is like, do you like leftovers or do you like meal plans? And we do meal plan. I do that. But I can't do the same meal plan every week. That's too bland.
But like we were saying earlier, it's like you want to meet your clients where they are, right? Maybe that client likes to have that structure.
And that's where I struggle, because I've had nutrition clients like that. And I'm like, oh, I got to make you a plan? Ugh. That's exactly how I feel. And that's the best way I can describe it. It's just, I don't enjoy that. So I think that's the thing I really struggle with and need to improve on.
That makes sense.
And that's what I mean. You know your strength, you know your weaknesses.
And
what were you
I was going to say, like in business, it's absolutely like if you can find a partner that's like, hey, you know what? I'm really good at training people and having people put on muscle, but you're really good at nutrition and making meal plans. Why don't we work together so that we can each send clients our way or whatever? Or
well, that's the nice thing about our gym too, is like, we've had power lifters. We have them in the gym, and if someone's looking to really like power lift or put on more muscle, like, sure, I would gladly push them towards them. Right.
Yeah.
If someone wants a more like, maybe female like trainer, we have those as well. Right. Some people like a male, some like female, right. Some people actually discriminate between that. It's kind of crazy to think about, but that's just a real world thing we have to deal with.
Yeah.
Understanding what the dynamic of what these people want. Some people prefer some over the others. So what was your question?
Oh,
Tangent.
We were just talking about kind of business in terms of how people can use partner with other people that have different strengths in the business, right?
Correct. So yes, going back into that. Yeah. Like I understand where I'm lacking, and I've looked at some of the templates we've had. Sure, I could definitely make changes, but I think that's an area I want to improve on. And that's what I mean. I'm only 3 years into this. I'm very young. I'm ready to make mistakes, and I've made mistakes. Yeah. They're all on my computer, and I should just file them as like failures, but hey, or just learning steps. I don't know. I should file in that, actually. That's not a bad idea, because I'm organized to a certain degree, but I am very free flowing. So I have, examples. So I'm building up, say, people who have autoimmune diseases or something, right? So say if you're a diabetic, okay, I have blurbs for that I've written up. I'm trying to think what else. I actually did nutrition for someone with epilepsy. So I had to do some research on, nutrition and epilepsy. And then mostly it's kind of finding supplements that would say work for that person. Mm-hmm. Hyperthyroidism is another one, right? These little kind of, not little, but these major diseases that affect not me, but the person I'm helping. Yeah. So that's something I'm trying to, that's how I can make my nutrition personalized compared to the generic here's your chicken and rice, here's your chicken and rice.
Yeah.
And I think that's an area I want to kind of expand and do better in. And,
but it's tough. Like we're saying, there's so much information out there on nutrition. And I think even a lot of nutritionists and just people that are in the space, there's still conflicting information that's going on. And it's just like,
well, that's it. I think the general consensus is eat more protein.
Yeah.
Eat more protein, right?
Yeah.
And move.
Yeah.
Eat more protein and move. And I know a big one coming out now is fats, right? What to cook with and all that. And, the breakdown of that. But people need to understand, okay, what is fat? You need to understand saturated, unsaturated, poly, mono,
and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Too.
And you learned about that through your education to a certain degree as well. That's what I mean. So understanding what, smoke points as well. Sure, they're important, but they're not actually, always oxidized. And there's like little things like that people don't realize, and they just hear fat.
Yeah.
And there's so many clients I've asked and been like, do you know what a macronutrient is? They're like, no idea. Or they'll be like, oh yeah, is that fats, carbs, protein? I'm like, oh, hey, that's great. Do you know what they mean? No idea. No. It's like, well, 1 gram of protein and carbs is 4 calories. And then 1 gram of fat is 9. So what I do is a really good example is I'll take we sell protein bars. I'll take a protein bar and I'll just quickly do the math there. So like, oh, it's 9 fat. Okay, 9 times 4. Or sorry, it's 9 grams. Sorry, 9 grams of fat. So 9 times 9. What would that be? 81. That would be 81. Thank you. Yeah. So the bar may be like 210 calories. Okay, 81 of those calories is fat. So if you quickly divide that, just estimate, was that like 40% of it is fat? Yeah. So like people don't realize that there is a fair amount of fat in like even these protein bars that we like to push. And I understand that, but also you got to look at, okay, it's, 2 grams of unsaturated fat, right? Actually, no, they say the saturated fat. Sorry. So it'd be like 2 grams of saturated fat.
Okay.
So then you're like, okay, so that means the other grams, which would be 7 grams, is unsaturated fats. So that's where my knowledge can come in. And I'm like, this is what you need to do when you read labels.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to ask you to stand in the grocery store and look at these and get the calculator out.
Yeah.
But just be wary.
Just be aware.
Yeah. Well, that's it. And that's why people, I guess, pay for these services, because they would rather actually just be told, what product should I buy? And now my problem with that is now you're kind of forcing people into to buy products that you might not be sponsored by or endorse, or maybe, but I feel like fitness influencers definitely do that.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, buy my product.
Yeah,
because
that's where you can really erode trust very, very quickly when people are just trying to sell stuff to make money or whatever.
And that's where I draw the line. And I have too much integrity in that regard that I don't want to do that.
Yeah. Not to worry, guys. Corey's not selling you any protein bars. At least
no, I'm not
stuff,
sponsored. So but I'm not opposed to certain brands that I do use sponsored. But anyways, I'm not nearly big enough for that.
No, give in a year or two, man. You'll get there. So let's getting back to, I guess, someone here who's listening that just wants to lose weight. Yep. What are, they can't afford a personal trainer or whatever, and they're just at home. What can they do in terms of like core exercises to just try to get themselves in a little bit of shape?
Well, YouTube is a valuable resource. It's free. Just look up a HIIT style workout. If you did, and it's funny, people are like, oh, you got to work out 5 times. We just talked about nutrition being 80%, workouts being 20. I could probably get the same results if I toned up my diet and did 3 workouts. Now, right now I have the luxury where I work at a gym. I can work out when I want. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But if you're, say, like you said, someone who's at home, maybe you have, just 2 days of 2 to 3 days. Well, in that case, do like a HIIT program. Try and throw the weightlifting if you can, because we want to build some muscle, and just keep it simple. Like a standard workout I usually give people, especially who go on vacation, I'll give them, okay, it's funny, actually, they'll be like, okay, here's where I'm going, the hotel. This is the gym we're going to have. What can you give me? So it's kind of like a little mental, like a fun puzzle you can do as a personal trainer. You're like, okay, you only have dumbbells and a bench. And a lot of people get stumped by that. And me as a personal trainer who's been working out for 10 years and own Visit for 3, I'm like, I can look at this and come up with 100 exercises. Yeah, right. And then a lot of people, maybe yourself, just struggles and looks and just sees a bench and dumbbells. So it's kind of creating that picturesque. And this is where the creativity comes, and understanding, okay, now how do you program? Push, pull, right? That's my standard superset. So a push exercise being your quads, your triceps, your chest, your calves. Those are your push. And shoulders are, I'll get to that later, but that's your main push muscles. And then your pulls are your back, your biceps, your hamstring, glutes. Shoulders are, I like to call them like a mixture, because if I do a shoulder press, I kind of call that a press. But if I do like a lateral raise, I feel like you're kind of pulling up. So that's why I'm like, I can kind of interchange shoulders into either one. And ideally, if you're doing 2 to 3 workouts like a week, you do just full bodies. And then you just kind of do just make sure you try and do 4 sets of each muscle group in that week. So maybe you do a chest press one day and a chest fly another. And then maybe you do like an incline chest press, and that's your 3 chests, right? And that will get muscle growth. Sure, you could get more if you worked out more and all that stuff, but you need to make sure you're eating the protein and the right carbs and the right fat and that concentration of macros as well on top of it. And that's when we like to push protein, is right after the workout, because that's when the muscles are sore.
Yeah. So people, they're new, they're starting out, so they don't have, maybe they don't even have access to a gym. So go on YouTube, find a good HIIT workout. Even if they don't have a gym, as long as they're doing like maybe push-ups, if they have a bar, they can do some pull-ups, they can do some stuff with their abs, some squats. So get moving even at,
Totally moving. It's funny. I'm not the biggest fan of walking's great and all, but running is where we cause most of our injuries. It's such an old school, and it's great. Like cardio is really good for heart health. I do hockey, at least I try and do twice a week. Yeah. It's great cardio, but we need to make sure we kind of lift with it as well. And I'm never going to say don't walk or run. Just be careful with the joints and stuff, because too much of it can definitely cause a strain on the Achilles.
Like even just walking.
Well, yeah, if you walk, say 2 hours or an hour a day. And that's why some people who are, say, nurses always on their feet, and they have such, feet problems as well. And
interesting. We'll get into that too, because that's kind of one of the things that I'm doing. But
okay. Interesting. But yeah, no, like implementing that, like walking's great and all, but pair it with the some weights and stuff, even if it's small weights to begin with. And the other thing is understanding, okay, if I can't push, say you only have 10s and 20s, that's it. So say if you're struggling to do something with the 20s, well, stick with those 10s and just slow the tempo down. Right. So now you're just keeping that muscle under tension. So bicep curls, I can't curl 20, but I can do 10s. Yeah. Okay, well, just instead keep it of under going
tension for longer,
just go like 1, 2, 3, 4, reset, right? So now that muscle will slowly build up to eventually, I can now do it without swinging. Because then that's where form comes in, and we can talk about it. But general movement, try and work each part of the body.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing you say here is that it's really important that if you're exercising, to really don't neglect the muscle building aspect of things. So if there's one thing that you can do, really work on building muscle.
And I should mention the stretching.
Mobility.
Let's go back to where we talked about. I've been pushing a lot of the muscle and lifting heavy, but it's funny, at the beginning, I even said, don't ego lift and all that. And I'm still against that. And I used to do that a lot. And now I just find weights that I can do without, say, wrist straps and stuff. I used them back in the past. I haven't used them in years now. Weight belts, I haven't used that in years. So for a squat, like I can do probably 3 plates, get a good 8 rep, not maybe, probably 6. And I won't use a weight belt because I've understood how to pelvic tilt and kind of work my core to be my weight belt. So definitely, like I always like to do a push pull and about 6 exercises, superset those 2, 3 sets, 12 reps, something, 12 or 10 reps. Yeah. And then after that, you go to the next. So I would call it A1, A2, do those back and forth. And then you go B1, B2, back and forth, C1, C2, back and forth. And then I like the D section to be just 2 exercises, and 8 exercises should come out to be 40, 45 minutes.
When you say A, B, C, D, that's what you're talking about in terms of the muscle groups, right?
Well, not that. It's just like push, pull, and you're just going to superset those 2 exercises. Got it. So that's what I mean by A1, A2. Right. So those 2 are just going to be like, so it'd be like, could be a squat with a row. Right. So squat with a bent over row. Yeah. So your push is your squat, and then your pull is your back. Right. So that's that row. So you just do those 2. So you kind of get those muscles, because they get a break while you're doing the other exercise. Right, exactly. And then you can do your chest, and then pair that with your hamstring, like a deadlift, or say a kettlebell swing, something like glute wise. So then you do your push pull, superset those. Then you could do your arms if you want, triceps paired with a bicep, or tricep paired with we did hamstrings. So you can do like lateral walks are great. They're great mobility for glutes and stuff. So that's when you have crab walk is another name, but lateral walk. But you have a band around your knees and ankles, and you just kind of walk to the side. Yeah. Anyways, and then the last one I always like is a core combo. A good finisher I can do in 3 minutes that I always do with clients if I say have a bit of time would be 20 seconds on, 10 seconds off, could be just sit-ups and then heel taps. Heel taps are one of the most simple core exercises, but if you do it fast enough or extend, like you'll feel your obliques, and all it is just side shuffling,
side to side.
Yeah, that's all it is. And you just do 20 seconds, so you don't have to count the reps. If you want, you could do 12 and 12 or 10, 10.
Sure.
But you just go until the time, and then you take your 10-second rest, and then you just go into sit-ups. Like those are two very standard core exercises that you could do at home that you don't need any equipment for.
Yeah.
And you just do that 10, but you can increase your time. Maybe, 20-10 isn't bad.
Yeah.
Let's do 30-10.
Yeah.
Or
So
I do, let's do 4. Yeah, let's do 4 sets.
Whatever works for
but I'm
you.
sure in 3 minutes, you'll feel your core.
Yeah.
And then now we got to get into, okay, the form of how you're doing heel taps. Are you using your traps too much? Because I find a lot of people when they do core is they tighten up the traps.
Yeah.
And they're doing this. And you see that with lifts a lot too, but it's all about actually tucking in your lats and actually engaging back here. And that's what I find our population struggles with, is engaging lats. And then not only that, they're tight in the shoulders just because if we're typing here. Same with the phone. So that's why I'm saying like the mobility, come back to the mobility, throwing in, and that's it. Maybe a pairing is external rotations, right? You just pair that with like triceps or something, or just something else. But or like lizards are a great one. So that's when you're kind of in a table position, then you bring one leg up to your hand.
Yeah.
So that's a very good hip mobility stretch, but it's baffling to me how many people can't actually do it. Yeah. Right. So mountain climbers are a good core one, but it does work on hips that you could kind of do. And usually what we do is, I started on incline. So planks, as standard as they are, they're great for kind of a static hold, which are great for your lifts. Mm-hmm. So if I need to work on my core stability for my squat, well, you need to do more holding core exercises. Hollow holds are a great one. That's when you lie on your back, keep your arms up. Yeah, it's such a simple exercise, but it's like, if you hold that for a minute, you'll feel
it's burning.
Yeah. So Phil, one of the trainers, he has something called a Phil finisher, and it's a minute. Well, the simpler version is 30 seconds of a hollow hold right into a plank. And you do that 5 times.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
so it's 5 minutes to work.
Roll over and do the plank. Yeah.
And then you're immediately into it. And then the advanced version is a minute of each.
Yeah.
So I remember the first time I did that, I did the plank one time, minute. Okay, not too bad. Went to the hollow hold, minute. As soon as I went to the plank, it was fine. Went back to the hollow hold. I just got like a cramp in my stomach.
Oh, yeah.
And this was like 2 years ago. And I was like, wow,
this is working.
It's an eye opener. Yeah, you're like, holy shit, my core is garbage. And I'm like, I'm a strong, fit guy, right?
Yeah.
Like I couldn't even do
not
that
as much as you
and
thought.
Well, that's what I mean. And that's what personal training's kind of opened my eye to, is like, there's always areas to improve. And I guess that's just life in general. And being a business owner, there's always something to improve on.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So going back to the question there.
Well, actually, what I'll say too is, I think it's really good, but maybe taking a little bit of a different direction here is thinking about people that are new and that you're coming in for training. What are some general mistakes that you see them making when it comes to their exercise and their working out?
Form. Because our gym does a lot of promotional stuff of like, hey, come in. Not only that, actually, anyone who wants to try our gym, we do a free week. So you just sign up, you do a waiver and all that, and you can have a free week for the boot camps or open gym, whatever you want.
Yeah.
We also have promotions with 4 months, or sorry, not 4 months, sorry, 4 weeks, which comes out to be a month. You can get like a personal training session or 2. I can't remember on top of my head, but anyways, it's a deal where you can get a session and you have to do 3 to 4 boot camps, and you post a picture. So that's a way that we kind of get some publicity. And not only that, it keeps you accountable.
Yeah.
You have to come in, and if you don't get it, then, you have to pay for the service. So it's that kind of incentive of, oh shit, I have to do this. And not only that, we see people drop 15, 10 inches. But what I'm trying to get from this is we have a lot of people who do these, come in for a boot camp, and then you're just looking at, like, say a 1-arm row. You'll see them hunched over, rounded back. Yeah. Deadlifts are such a common one that a lot of people struggle with. Mm-hmm. And do you know what I tell people? If you can't do a deadlift, just don't do it. There's so many other hamstring exercises you can do. Until you're able to.
For you, basically.
Well, exactly. And it works lower back, but if you're doing each one and you're like, my lower back really, well, that
shouldn't, right? Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, you should activate it. It should be a little sore. When I do deadlifts, I feel it, but it goes away in 2 days.
Yeah.
It's not permanent. So I remember you mentioned you had some back pain. Do you do deadlifts?
I do some of them sometimes.
Well, that's it.
To help, to try to help. Anyways, so
100%.
I'm trying to strengthen my whole chain of
Another one is like back
back.
extensions is when you lock your legs into a machine and you kind of hinge forward, up and down. Like that's a machine. But once again, that's a lot of lower back.
Yeah.
And I find when I do that with people, I try not to until they're ready. Right. It's almost like you have to build up the core stability and understand the actual movement of a hinge. And it's all about that pelvic tilt. So going back to your question of understanding like the biggest mistakes people make, that is definitely one of it. Rounding the back, not using core. And a lot of people don't know they have core and they say they don't. It's like, no, you have it.
Has it. Yeah.
You just don't know how to use it.
Yeah. Or you can't see it like the six pack on,
and
on
then
Thor
like,
or whatever. But
Phil's doing a mobility class and all it is literally 45 minutes of just working on hip mobility and shoulder mobility. So I see shoulder press, like this shoulders coming forward way too much. It should be by the ears.
It needs to be more.
Or the harder version, keeping it like here and then tucking in the elbows and then using your lats as a stabilizer to drive up.
Yeah.
And people struggle with that because they'll do this. And then what happens is they cross over and then you're tapping your head. But if you watch anyone who does a front rack, they're going to rack like here. And this is where I struggle. I'm so tight in the bicep here. It's like, oh, I got to work on that. So being able to hold the bar and actually lift up and use your lat and not lose core. So that's now the little things I'm learning. It's like, oh shit, people can't do this. I got to improve for them, but it's also where I can learn. And usually what I do is I do the exercise before them.
Right.
I'm not going to give someone a random exercise I've never done. Okay, that's a lie. I've done that maybe once or twice. I blame Instagram because you see something funny and you're like, oh, this got to. And usually it's a client I know, and I'm like, okay, let's give this a shot, right? Because I'm like, but I can break down the movement.
Goes back to knowing the client as well too, whether they're gonna,
and I'm like, we're gonna try this shit.
Yeah. But so again, somebody that doesn't know form or whatever.
Yeah.
So you're just saying, just try to be aware, and again, the guy that can't hire a personal trainer, just go online, try to see these guys that are talking about proper form, and just try to be very aware when you're doing your movements to keep everything like locked in and tight.
This is where I kind of go back to the community. Like our gym's good for that, but if you're at home, even filming yourself, like you're not posting it.
Yeah.
I filmed so many shit of me doing stuff that's not posted just to look at form.
That's a really good idea because you can't see what you look like.
And then you can buy like you have fancy stands and stuff, but you can buy one for what, $20? Yeah. If that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. On Amazon. I don't like the cheap shit, but
no, 20, I know you don't. $20.
No,
right off the screen. So
no,
you probably write that off, but you should as a business owner. But anyways,
but a cheap tripod, put your phone on it.
Well, exactly.
Or you can just lean your phone on.
Well, that's the funny thing too. Like we set up the step up, like those metal step up things, and put a dumbbell on it and put my phone there, and then you have a stand, right? Boxes are great heights, right? You just put a dumbbell, triangle weight or whatever, and you just put your phone there and make sure it lines up, and then just watch your squat. Oh wow, my heels are elevating each time I squat. Didn't even notice, right? Oh, I'm not flaring my legs enough, or I'm bending. A lot of times you'll see the knees come in, right? That's weakness in the hips and adductor, right? Those kind of areas all interlocking. So that's the other thing is squats is a tough one for a lot of people. Yeah. And I find lunges as well, because a lot of people, you need to understand as a personal trainer too, is people are very quad or glute dominant. Yeah. So you got to learn that early. So I could probably do this with after quickly, but like for me, I'm quad dominant. If I do a lunge, I'm very much knee over toe, quads being activated. Yeah. So when I do a reverse lunge is when I'll get glute. You should get glute, but if you're still getting quad on a reverse lunge, you're doing something.
And that's when you take a step backwards, right?
Well, so a reverse lunge is that step backwards, and you should be not knee over toe, and it should actually get glute. So your glute and hamstring should be driving that forward. Yeah. Where a forward lunge, like a walking lunge, it should be quad, like your knee coming over. Yeah. But some people can't keep their back foot straight. And that's the other thing. And it's like, as a personal trainer, you learn these little tips, and that's what people pay for. And, you got to be an asshole sometimes and come in and be like, correct the foot. Like sometimes I'm like, I did a shoulder external rotation here. And sometimes you just got to grab this hand and literally manipulate it. And people are like, oh, and you're like, this is the range of motion I want you to get to. And if you can't do that, then do some on your own, but I'm going to force it into it to a certain degree that I know you're comfortable with. Yeah. And if it's really painful, we'll stop. But most people can do it. It's just, that's when you got to learn the push. And sometimes you touch, but you don't touch.
I got you.
It's like a weird, that's what I mean. Cause a lot of people are like, oh, and especially with COVID, they're like, oh, can I touch? I kind of learned that. And like you poke and you're poking muscles. They're paying for that. They want the attention to detail. So it's that balance of I'm not touching you, I'm showing you.
It's just showing,
So another like deadlift is a great one. Like I'm not going to poke your hamstrings or glutes. I poke the pelvic and say, you got to twist here, or I'll maybe poke just where the hamstring is. I'm not going to touch your butt or anything like that's where it gets inappropriate.
Too much.
But you touch the hamstring and said, this is, or I'll touch mine and say, are you feeling it here? Right. Because your body is your body too. And we're all human to a certain degree.
To a certain, I hope the whole degree.
Well, but I just mean like some people might not have limbs and stuff. So that's the area.
I hear you.
That's kind of what I meant by that. But yeah, some people need to kind of have those cues, and filming yourself is a great way to do it at home.
That's really great. That's really great advice. I want to talk about the stuff that I'm doing for my personal stuff. But before we get to that here, because we're running short on time too. So we touched a little bit about this, but I'd just love to hear your take on, I think there's so many people here in Western society that we're just really unhealthy. I think, the obesity rate is just skyrocketing, and it seems like the diseases and stuff that people are having, people are sick. So many people are on medications. What do you think is the root cause of why we're so unhealthy?
Capitalism. Do you want to get into that? Like companies selling products that,
it could be. I mean,
that's definitely a feature. In Canada, we have 3 main grocery stores.
Yeah,
it's kind of crazy to look back on.
Well, they're all
they're all underneath like Superstore is one, right? And Sobeys has a whole bunch. Like in Ontario, it's Longo's, but that's underneath Superstore. I think No Frills is Superstore as well. In Newfoundland, they don't have Superstore; they have Dominion.
Yeah,
but that's what I mean. So we're kind of stuck to these 3 grocery stores: Costco and Walmart, I guess. So 4.
Yeah. But maybe even more so much in terms of like what people are doing in their day-to-day lives, right? That are making it so that.
It's the portion control, and kind of going back to, I seen a great Instagram video that showed, say Sour Patch Kids in a bowl and an apple. Sure, calorie wise, they're the exact same, but macro wise, you got to understand.
Yeah.
There's a little more sugar probably in the Sour Patch Kids. An apple is very sugary. It's high in carbohydrates.
That's what fruits are. Different type of sugar too, though, right?
But they're both simple sugars. Mm-hmm. So they're simple and complex sugars. Or carbohydrates, sorry, not sugars. So it's a simple carbohydrate, meaning that it takes the body a very quick time to digest. Yeah. So that's why you'll see powerlifters sometimes eat, some candy actually before a heavy lift.
Interesting. Okay.
Because that will give you a little boost for it. But going back to kind of that portion control, it's a lot easier to eat more of those Sour Patch Kids than an apple.
For sure. Yeah.
And not only that, when you're done an apple, you're left with the core, you're done.
Yeah.
So with fruit, you're just done with the portion. But if you, like we talked about, you said the almonds.
Chocolate almonds.
Let's go back to the almonds, right? It's high in fat, and then the sugar from the chocolate, and it's such a sweet, one isn't enough, right? They're moreish. That's the term. So in Western culture, we buy bulk, we sell bulk, and with grocery prices going up, you buy bulk, right? Yeah. So that's
it's even
problem.
Just cheaper to buy lower quality foods as well.
Well, and that's it too. And that's a great point you brought up. Low quality foods sometimes, like canned foods, they're higher in sodium. But if you can't afford fresh, that's what you're going to have to do.
Don't have a choice.
So now you have to look and evaluate how much sodium you're intaking, because that's how they preserve these things. Yeah. It's usually sodium or say other ingredients. Exactly. Yeah. And then also understanding, say I'm eating protein stuff through meat, but it's like processed meats, like sandwich meats. Yeah. So I'm not a Subway lover. I don't go there, but that's what I mean. That's a very prime example of people like, oh, I'm eating healthy.
Yeah,
eat fresh.
But the processed meats aren't with really.
Processed, and they have a whole bread. They have a bread problem right now. I don't want to go down there, but I'm just saying that people see these healthy kind of fast food,
but it's not really healthy.
No.
So is it almost even like an educational problem down at the core, where people just don't even know what's actually healthy?
I actually wanted to bring this up as well as my education through Acadia, and one of my profs who did communication, she said, your job as someone who's doing nutrition, because I'm not a nutritionist, your job is actually going to be knowledge mobilization.
Okay.
Your whole life is going to be educating and mobilizing education that you've learned and knowledge you've learned and passing it along. I'm like, okay. Yeah. You're just a permanent teacher, really. Yeah. And I have high respect because my partner's a teacher, and I'm learning about the kids that she struggles to teach, and I'm doing it for adults.
Yeah, which in some ways might be harder, because the older you get, the more set in your ways you can.
Well, that become. Too, and we're creatures of habits. We are. It's hard to break it. But that's why some people like, we can go back to the meal planning stuff, and people like having structure. I'm not one of those people, but that's why I ask leftovers or meal prep. And if you can, buy in bulk, but buy the right things in bulk. So like brown rice, I buy that in bulk. Why would I buy a tiny bag? Now for convenience, sometimes I'll buy the Uncle Ben's just because it's convenient, but I'm still at least making a somewhat healthier choice than say, that's what I mean. Like little things like that. Another example, like there's a local butcher shop here, Two Boys. I buy their ground beef. They do lean ground beef for $3.99 for 5 pounds. I'm not going to eat 5 pounds in like 1 day or 2 days.
$3.99 a pound.
Yeah, $3.99 a pound. Sorry, not
I go right over here and it's like $10 a pound.
Oh yeah,
but it's supposed to be like grain fed or grass fed.
Oh, is that the what's the store called?
I totally can't remember. Natural. I don't know. We're gonna be sitting here for 10 minutes trying to figure out.
We're not sponsored by them, so it's fine. But anyways, I know which one you're talking about, and I've had actually a few clients say, yeah, they have good products, but you're gonna be paying more.
It's expensive.
I think there's a farm out in Windsor that does like decent deals on meat and stuff, but you can buy fresh meat. So that's why sometimes you can go to Costco and buy these big cuts, or pork loin. I buy pork loin, chop it up into pork chops. Yeah. Now, mind you should kind of mitigate your pork intake, but once again, it is protein. Just kind of cut off the fatty pieces, stuff, little things like that. But
sure.
That's what I'm saying. Buy in bulk, but buy the right quality. Quality over quantity.
Yeah. Makes sense. All right. Let's get into real quick here to end of what I'm doing, right?
Sure.
So, did you happen to see the video that I made about my plan? Okay. So
I'm in the dark.
Okay. So it's so I just made
just close my eyes.
It was like a 3 or 4 minute video. I was like, this is my plan to lose 50 pounds of body fat in 100 days. So that's my goal. So it's a little high. It's 2.5 pounds a week or whatever, something like that. Or I don't know what it is. Anyways, I'm like, I got a lot of fat to lose. It's okay. I can do it. So here's my plan. So
just for the winter, right? Just keep you warm.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyways, continue.
Exactly. So my plan is, wake up in the morning and do 30 minutes of bike ride. I have my stationary bike here, so get on, do that. Go out and do a 2 or 10 kilometer walk. So walk for about 2 hours. Just to get that, what is it, zone 2 or whatever? Kind of just.
I think you said you'd walk down to the rink and back. Was that one of your walks?
That's part of it. Like I'll walk for whatever, because that's only like walking there is about half an hour, right?
Yeah,
so then I walk back and then I'll do another loop or whatever. So so I do that, and then some days, probably 3 days a week, play hockey as well too, which is a lot. So, but anyways, try to get all that stuff done. And then later on in the day after I do my work or whatever, do 30 minutes of calisthenics. So we're talking about working out. For me, I love calisthenics because you can do so much great progressions. And if you don't have a gym, like
you work at home. Yeah. I was about to say that you work out at home. Calisthenics are perfect. Anyways, like continue.
Get the bar, do a pull up. Like most people can't do a pull up, right? So it's like super hard to do. So you can do lots of good progressions. So I love calisthenics, 30 minutes doing that. Pretty much, I guess, a good hard workout for that.
Yeah.
And also at the end of the day, maybe do another 5K walk if I have time with the kids or with Andrea or whatever. And then top it off with 30 minutes of mobility work, just to make sure, for me, I want to make sure I keep my hips open or whatever, do that stretching or whatever. So that's kind of my day. It's a lot because someone's already like, oh, you got like 6 hours a day.
I'm going to say this to you. I'm not even going to talk about the exercise. What are you eating?
For sure.
That sounds fine. That sounds great. You're doing all the right movement wise. Well, now we have to go, okay, when are you eating?
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Are you fueling, like say after hockey, are you getting protein after that?
Okay, so here's what I do. I really like fasting, so I usually don't, I usually skip the breakfast.
Totally.
So if hockey's in the morning, sometimes in the morning, and then I won't get home till noon, that's when I'll eat. Or sometimes I'll eat maybe before hockey or sometimes after. So after 2 o'clock if it's more of an afternoon game. So what I eat. So Andrea makes these, like I said, she's really great because she pretty much cooks everything for us, which is really fantastic. So she cooks these like egg cups. So she'll make like these, she put these eggs in and she puts some.
I've done them. It's like Starbucks does them.
Yeah,
like
I don't know
these
what it is.
but
and there's bacon in there and then there's cheese and I think maybe cottage cheese. So she bakes all that. So one
kind of thing I would say is switch to turkey bacon. Less fat in it. It's a little better for you. Like that's what I cook with. I can't say I don't use bacon. On the weekends, I'll sure do like original bacon, but that's how you can reduce fat intake right away. Add spinach to it. Add peppers.
Okay, yeah, she does different veggies and stuff,
onions,
whatever.
Like broccoli if you want, right?
Yeah,
anyways, continue.
Broccoli is not going to happen.
Oh, you're not broccoli? Okay.
Not in my eggs. Come on, are you crazy?
Wow, have you not had a quiche? Come on, quiche has broccoli. It's funny I say that. I hate broccoli and quiche. I love broccoli, but I hate broccoli quiche.
You're sweating me in this.
Do as I say, not as I do.
Yeah,
Anyways.
exactly. Yeah. So I have that. That's a good breakfast thing. I have like a trail mix thing that I make with nuts, whatever. That's just kind of a little snack. But generally the most big thing I eat is either I'll get chicken breasts or chicken thighs and have that kind of plain with some rice on the side, and maybe some steamed vegetables or whatever. And then ground beef, where I'll cook up a lot of ground beef. Usually I'll have like almost like a pound of ground beef, and I'll put that in with your tomatoes, onions, mushrooms, whatever, and maybe have it like in a wrap.
So are you having that every day, or is it every second day? And that's where I'm going to ask.
Pretty much, like, I guess I'll even say what I ate yesterday. I had 2 of those egg cups.
Yep.
I had a bowl of ground beef with a bunch of veggies and cheese over.
So the egg cups, we're looking at what, 300-400?
She put them in as 4 of them was like 1,000 calories, so like 250 per.
Okay.
In terms of what
so 500.
Yeah, so it's 500.
Might be a little high for breakfast. I usually tend to push a 30, like 300, 500 to like high end 450. So it does sound like
fair enough.
But if you just had,
that's like lunchtime.
Bake. Okay.
Though.
Yeah, because you're fasting.
I'm not doing the breakfast thing.
Yes. Okay.
So it's that. Then
Something I gotta remember.
Yeah.
Continue.
Yeah. So then then I had a bowl of ground beef, with the veggies and cheese over top of it. Yeah. And I had this is where it's probably pretty high up. Like I have a small little cup or whatever. I just kind of scoop in for my trail mix. So I have a snack of that. And I think, what else did I have? And then I had a little bit of ice cream. I usually have some ice cream.
Okay.
So that was
what time of day is that?
So the first time I ate was, I think it was after hockey. So it would have been like 12:30.
Okay.
And then my supper was like 5. And it was actually bad though, because I had the ice cream at like 8 o'clock because the hockey game was on. I was watching the hockey game while I was working and had ice cream.
So maybe you're what I'm seeing is the problem is the time eating. So your fasting period it seems like it's all over the place.
It definitely depends, but usually I'll start either at 12 or 2 p.m. and then it goes, and I usually try to eat by 5 or 6. So it's kind of a smaller 6-hour window usually.
Okay, because that's a pretty tight fasting period. Yeah. And then not only that,
but I don't really feel hungry personally myself. But
well, I think the reason why is the ground beef and the cheese and stuff. Like that's a very like rich diet. And I know someone who's done the carnivore diet. He said when he started eating a lot of meat and beef and stuff, he wasn't that hungry much, and it worked for him. He did lose some weight and stuff, but the problem is I have
bananas and apples as well too.
It's not, so you're implementing some carbs and stuff there, which is great. Yeah. But I would could you not eat at 11? Like would 11 be, and do 11 to 6 or like 12 to 6?
If you think that's going to be better for me.
Well, I think almost an 8-hour window might be better than a 6. Okay. I feel like the 6 is just a little tight for you. But now my other question is, I haven't heard your results. Are you getting results?
So, I mean, I just started on Monday, so it's been 4 days. So 4 days, I've lost 5.4 pounds, I think.
Damn.
In 4 days.
Okay. So
when I start, like, I told you this before when we were talking earlier, like I've done I'm at 180, I go down to 150, and
I remember you saying
I roller coaster a lot. So because when I work out, I can work out hard. When I was doing Muay Thai, doing 3 days, like it's crazy.
I can imagine.
So, but for now, I don't want to get injured or whatever. So I can work out and I could be consistent in my eating, but I can never just keep it. I can't keep it going, right? Because something always happens in life where I'm like I said, for me, I'm an emotional eater. It's like,
and that's why fasting is a tough one, because if you are an emotional eater, you're going to eat randomly. You're going to listen to your body and say, my body's hungry, I'm going to eat, or your emotion.
My emotion stuff, though, it's always at night. That's when I always have
that's
problems.
What's probably...
That's what kills me.
Yeah, totally. Because what happens is if you eat it, say, 2 hours before bedtime, your body doesn't know what to do with that extra bit of food.
Right.
And it's like, well, I'm going to store it through fat, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Or if it was high carbs, I'm going to store it through glycolysis and all that stuff. And it's just going to kind of go through the Krebs cycle. And then, if you're familiar with that cycle, it just...
The Krebs cycle?
Yeah. So that's how we make energy and stuff. So carbs, fats, proteins kind of go through this Krebs cycle. Anyways, the long story short is that how we make ATP. But if we can't make ATP, which is what we use for energy, your carbs go through the sugar process and essentially goes back and goes as glycogen.
Right.
And that's just now stored in your body, and it has to be stored somewhere if you're not using it.
Yeah.
So that's why sometimes I'm not a biggest fan of these diets that restrict calories to 800, because what happens, or like say keto, is what happens is our body burns carbs our body burns carbs first and then kind of fat second, but it kind of depends on what you're doing exercise wise. So you're walking for an hour, that's actually going to be more fats because it's a consistent speed. But us playing hockey, that's carbohydrates.
Right.
We're always moving. But the other thing we got to think about too is our brain burns a lot of carbs. That's actually where most of our calories are burned, is our brain just thinking, doing what we're doing now, just talking
I
here.
think I heard somewhere that some people that play chess, because they're thinking so much, they burn like 6,000 calories just like playing chess or whatever.
Oh,
like
it's crazy. Like, and you're just like,
and they're just super skinny because they're just sitting there.
Yeah, maybe they're just
maybe
like,
we all need to think more. That's what I'm saying.
Well, don't want to give a headache, but no, that's the thing. So now we're going to get into the timing of your thing. That's why I was wondering if that's why your diet could be being, screwed up, is because you're eating later, or you have these late nights, and then the body essentially says, oh, we don't know what to do with this extra calories. We're just going to store it.
That's definitely when I'm off. So now that I'm trying to like lose the weight and be consistent, it's like,
you seem motivated.
Try not to eat past like 6 o'clock. Like, what is it like? You would say like 3 or 4 hours
it's
before
funny.
you go to bed?
That's a better set. People are like, oh, should I eat past 6? Or like,
no,
I can't eat past. It's
when you go to bed. Yeah, exactly.
Like, everyone's different. Some, like, I usually go to bed at 11. I try to stop at like 9, but I work till 8, so I have to eat something.
Right. Yeah.
So I kind of have to, maybe I'll do a little more chores around the house to burn that extra energy. And that's things I got to think of and maybe do a little better on, right? There's always things to improve on, but you're right. Like, someone might go to bed 1 o'clock at night, so they can maybe have an extra bit of carbs, like maybe
9 o'clock.
Well, and then I say, look at the serving size of the package. Like, Triscuit crackers are a good kind of whole wheat snack, because you just have 5 of them. It's carbs, but it's not going to make or break.
Can you just have 5?
Well, that's the other problem. It's kind of like the chocolate almonds. But anyways, looking at the serving size and counting those out is so crucial in this world, especially going back to when we talked about Western culture.
Yeah.
No one does that.
Yeah.
And I've noticed, like, when you tell people, they will start to, but if they don't know, they won't.
One thing I found that has really helped me is to just keep busy. So like I said too, when I'm an emotional eater, it's always because I feel like I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing, or there's something going on with work. And if I could be like, I actually love what I'm doing, or I'm enjoying what I'm doing, and then I could just be busy and I just eat not to alleviate something that's going on in my life. I just eat because I just need to eat.
So going to that, I should state as well that sometimes when people get busy, they don't eat.
Yeah.
So now we have another problem.
That's a whole different problem. Yeah. Thankfully, I don't think that's the problem that I have to worry about right now.
But I've trained
not going to eat.
so many people that say are nurses, and they'll do a full shift and not eat at all. And I'm like, how do you function?
Yeah.
Like, personally, for me, I wake up, I have to eat, because my body is so used to the system of that. But I'm I'm a mindful eater. That's how I like to think.
Yeah.
So when my body tells me to eat, I will eat.
Yeah.
But I also know, okay, if it's say late at night, okay, let's try and substitute with water and hold that over, because I know I shouldn't be eating. Yeah. But sometimes, I indulge in those cravings, and maybe I keep it small, like something like popcorn, right? Very small, or rice cakes, or some bullshit like that tastes all right, but you could suffer through it just to go to bed.
Yeah. But it's interesting though, because I've done a lot of research and digging up of like fasting and talking about that. So like, even if you go, because you think about the whole days of humans being hunter-gatherers, where you can have humans like, they had to go 2 or 3 days without food. So like, and our body isn't it basically regulated so that when we don't have those carbs, whatever, we switch into ketones, which is the whole ketosis or whatever. So like, it's not like it's a bad thing if you don't eat. Again, if you're not doing it as like a specific, I just need to lose fat, so I'm just not going to eat and starve myself, that's completely different. But if you just happen to not eat for whatever, you're not going to die.
No, you won't. It's just understanding that it's not something that you can maintain forever.
It's not a sustainable lifestyle.
Thank you.
Just
sustainable.
Like,
that's the word. You could do it. I've had, and that was the education as well I got from Acadia. It was like, don't discourage people from doing it. Tell them the pros and cons, but still help them through the journey. You're not going to push someone away. Like they need help through it. They might not understand the actual what they're doing. So it's like, okay, I can help you through, say, keto, but I want you to actually slowly implement carbs later on. So once you lose that weight, maybe it's 30 pounds in a month, right? There's huge losses in that, but it's like, okay, now you lost that 30, and this is going back to the guy who did the carnivore diet. He lost a bunch, but I was like, okay, now that we lost it, you had a trip coming up. I was like, your trip, you're going to be indulging with alcohol,
and if he's just eating
foods,
carbs,
well, exactly. And he understood it, and he was like, yeah, like he even said to himself, he was like, yeah, I'm going to start implementing small portions of vegetables and stuff like that, which he wasn't eating. Because that's what's going to be. He was going on a cruise. He was just eating straight meat. So I was like, that's someone who's understanding and educational, but you don't always have that. And people will just, have that slice of pizza after keto, and they're like, shit, I just gained 10 pounds after like a week of, pizza there and there. And it's like, well, your problem is you went from not having carbs. Your body's like, oh, we have carbs. Let's let's store 'em. We're not used to it.
Yeah.
That's exactly. And like you said, our bodies are so good at regulating. It's almost too good. It's scary.
Yeah.
Our bodies are so, and you did biology. So you kind of understand the breakdown that our bodies, can adjust to climates, right? Look at where everyone lives. We're not all in the cold. We're all in the heat. So it's kind of interesting. Like that's why I kind of got into the medical field as well, I guess, to a certain degree, is that it's fascinating. We're always learning.
It's really crazy. It's even funny. Like we were talking earlier about like celebrities and they put on weight or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen this movie, The Machinist, with Christian Bale, and the director was like, oh, maybe you can come like losing like 20 pounds or whatever. He went in and he lost like 60 pounds. He looked like this skeleton.
I remember the Batman picture, like when he did Batman, the shows.
I think it was right before he did Batman or whatever. Yeah.
And that's that. And then like you said, you had some MMA background or like martial arts.
Yeah.
Those and then fighting competitions are like the two. And then I guess bodybuilding are like the areas that definitely create body dysmorphia and all these other mental images that people have to deal with.
Competing, like the bikini, you hear all these girls talking about that. Oh man.
So we had a trainer that was in our gym, and you couldn't talk to him when he was doing these because he wasn't in his right mind because he cut his calories so much, and he was just like grumpy. It was we seen him when he started, and then it's like, whoa, his attitude completely declined because you're depriving yourself of macronutrients you normally had. Yeah. So it's understanding that you're going to be a bit of an asshole around, and maybe
I think you're understating it,
but distance yourself and understand that. But most people don't because they got a job or whatever, and that's a whole other problem that I find the fighting world. Yeah, like sometimes you got to drop 10 pounds or like 2 pounds right before the day
way
of.
They do the cutting and whatever. Yeah, it's crazy because they'll like not drink any water at all and go in saunas and like.
And then they'll come like the next day they're like up to 3 pounds. Well, even because they've done their weight.
10 is 15 pounds as much because they have to rehydrate because there's such an advantage for your weight in terms of being heavier than your opponent. Like it's crazy.
And it's not something I have experienced, but I do know about that. And there was a guy in my program that was big into that, but that was one area
that stuff's too insane. It's too crazy.
Yeah. I didn't want to get into that because I was like, I'm not an expert in that. It's not my sport, but not only that, I don't want to create that.
It's not healthy for humans to do that, to cut like 15 pounds in a couple days and then
actors did it right all the time. Yeah. But they talk about intermittent fasting, keto, but you got to remember that
Ozempic now.
Well, that's a whole other trade. But
we'll get there.
They have money to pay for a team, a chef and stuff.
Exactly.
The general public doesn't. Yeah. Like Chris Pratt he's a prime example. He dropped so much weight, and I think he did intermittent fasting, but
he did 60 pounds before he did Guardians when he was on trailer or Parks and Rec.
Parks and Rec. And you could see that, but he had support through, celebrity chefs or whatever, but he had a support team that could help him that. And not everyone has that. Not everyone can afford, top of the line meat or vegetarian protein options.
Also hearing a lot of these stars that put on the weight, especially the Marvel guys, like they're on something in terms of.
I don't know.
You never know. That's true. We can't say.
I'm very skeptical of it. I'm very much a natural person that I haven't dabbled in that. Yeah. But I can't say I haven't seen that in a gym. Jeez, if you haven't been to a gym.
But you see, like, you look at like The Rock. I mean,
yeah,
you look at him when he was in WWE at like 25 and peak condition, and he's like, he's big, but now he's 60 years old and the veins and I was like,
well, look at old school baseball was huge into it. They use those substances like crazy.
The Sammy Sosa, Mark McGuire thing. Yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah, we don't need to say the word, but we all know it. But that's what I mean. Like these, no wonder they're hitting home runs. Yeah. And there's a reason why we banned it, because we want a fair playing field. Yeah. And that's why I think maybe nutrition and physical fitness has improved so much in the athletic world. Like it's crazy now. You see athletes, their training systems. Like so I'll kind of finish with this too. Is I'm getting into golf. So the last 5 years, since I moved here in Nova Scotia, I've been playing a lot of golf. And I'm young, and I'm understanding that there's going to be a lot of downs and some ups. Very few ups, but like even these golfers went from like John Daly, who was a big heavy guy, smoker, drinking, to Tiger Woods, who started caring about his body, to now you have Scotty Scheffler and all these Rory doing these heavy lifts, ball slams. It's like, wow, you never seen that. Hockey's a big one as well, right? Connor McDavid, Connor Bedard. You're like, wow, this kid's like 19 doing like 20 pull-ups, right? Yeah. And I've trained hockey kids.
Nordic curls or whatever. All
exactly.
That crazy moves.
And I'm like looking at them, like my hamstrings are like cramping looking at that. But like I've trained hockey kids here locally, and I'm like, you don't see that level. And it's like, wow, like this is the gap between a professional and someone who's like doing it just as either recreational or trying to get up there. And it's crazy to see that the science for nutrition and then fitness has
Science
grown.
of exercise too. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, the last 20 years. Like Acadia is actually, when I started their I did sports nutrition there as an elective actually, and that was only 3 years old. And so it must be what, maybe 9 years old now, and something like that. Anyways, it's like a big, but like you go to the States, they push that shit like crazy.
Do they?
Look at the like college basketball, college football. They're pushing like
These
proper
are
weight.
kids.
Well, yeah, they're university kids. They're what, probably youngest 18.
Yeah.
But you'll see
even their high school sports programs.
well, that's
are
it.
Crazy,
And you know, as much as I hate to give the U.S. compliments, I will give them in that regard
They do
the
well with
fact
their
that they
athletic
do well
programs.
with the
Yeah.
athletic program, and it's something Canada is slowly getting to. But yeah, we could do better. But you know, we still have hockey.
Yeah. It's an interesting point too. Just before we go, like,
God damn it.
yeah, like hockey. I would love to spend like a year being focused on like, you know what, I really want to improve my skills on the ice, because I know I go play. I'm not very good, and I understand that. I just go for fun or whatever. But I would love to see if I did a targeted approach of like maybe a half-hour training a day or whatever to just try to really improve my on ice performance. And I'd love to see how well I could progress in that, because it's just, I don't know, it's just so much fun, and to seeing if you can get, we do need to go.
I'm already late for hockey.
But anyways, you got to go play hockey. You got to come back and talk about this again too, because there's so much we can get into, because
I really enjoyed this.
We haven't talked too much about like the whole business aspect of stuff.
No.
And I think that's something that's really great we could talk about in terms of how to build up, you know, your career and the business and stuff that you're doing.
That's just it.
To learn more about what you're doing. Yeah.
I that's an area I struggle with, and that's why I took this opportunity, because you have a platform where I can do it, and I'd love to do it more.
Yeah.
And I hope people enjoy this conversation.
Yeah, sounds good. I definitely enjoyed it.
I did too.
Thank you so much. Good. And I'll have you back on. And,
I was gonna say, we talk a lot in the hockey rink and stuff, and this is a completely different vibe. But I think going back to your hockey thing, I think we could both improve on that. Like, focus hockey. I've been doing a lot of golf stuff, but like hip mobility, strides. Biggest thing is like, you know, stretching your arms out when you're skating. Like you're actually supposed to tuck them in.
The form,
Well, exactly. Like more
I don't know what I'm doing.
aerodynamic.
I should probably, we got to film it, right? Because I probably look like I'm like,
or you
this
need
is
corrections.
a horrible person.
But, you know, you see me play, I can at least skate, but like stick handling something. But my wrists are weak. So I've actually started now improving wrist stuff, because I find with golf and hockey, that's where I'm
I would
weak.
imagine that for the shot as well.
Well,
too,
exactly. Right? And I find these right here, my ulnar and my radius, really kind of fatigue quick, like that kind of muscle area. So
whatever,
deviations are like something I've been doing, wrist curls. And I'm like, I've never done these. Why? I complained so much out they're weak, and I don't do it.
Like,
so.
yeah.
Anyways, that's just the hockey talk. But like, geez.
Yeah.
I enjoyed this.
Yeah. I appreciate you coming on board and coming here to do this today. It was very educational and entertaining, so I appreciate it.
I hope it was.
No, it was good.
I enjoyed it. I would love to come back.
I appreciate it, and we'll let you get to hockey.
Yeah. Thanks.
All right.